During the golden age of ocean liners, the ships built by the French lines were said to be the epitome of style and luxury. But there is one ship that stands head and shoulders above the rest. On this episode of Never Stop Learning, we will be taking a look at the majestic SS Normandie, as well as her tragic end. Construction of the Normandie began in January of 1931, and the ship was built to break records. She would be the first vessel to measure in at over 1,000 feet in length. As well, with a total weight of 79,000 gross registered tons, she would be the largest ship in the world. Secretly, there was a third record that the owners hoped to beat. With its state-of-the-art turbo-electric transmission system, with 4 turbo generators and electric propulsion motors, the Normandie would also be the fastest. With her hull complete, SS Normandie launched on October 29, 1932. The ship was so massive that when she hit the water, she created a wave so large that it carried over 100 unfortunate onlookers off the dock and into the Loire River. Once in the water, it would be another 3 years of outfitting her interiors, engines, and funnels before she would be ready to accept passengers. The SS Normandie featured 12 decks and was capable of carrying 1,972 passengers, as well as a crew of 1,345. The ship was also a floating monument to Art Deco. She had a movie theater, massive dining hall, and her decks were free from clutter and ventilation ducts. The public areas were filled with sculptures and wall paintings that depicted Normandy, the province of France which the ship was named after. On May 29, 1935, SS Normandie began her maiden voyage across the Atlantic. Under the command of her captain René Pugnet, she aimed to break another record. The ship arrived in New York City in 4 days and 3 hours, breaking the previous record and earning the ship the Blue Ribbon, which is given to the ship that can cross the Atlantic the fastest. She averaged just under 30 knots on her maiden voyage west and 30 on her return journey to France. Her first year at sea was a total success. However, in the summer of 1936, RMS Queen Mary of the Cunard Line hit the seas, and at over 80,000 tons, the Queen Mary was set to steal the title of the world's largest ship. Normandie's owners were determined to keep her largest ship title, so in the winter of 1935, a retrofit was done on the ship to lower vibration as well as increase stability. This increased her weight to over 83,000, allowing her to maintain the title of the world's largest ship. Before the war, SS Normandie's time on the ocean was fairly uneventful, aside from one spectacular incident. On June 22, 1936, SS Normandie was returning to France when overhead, Lieutenant Guy Kennedy Horsey was flying a Blackburn Baffin on a torpedo drill. The pilot decided to buzz the ship, but managed to collide with the ship's crane, which was transporting a motor car, onto a barge alongside the ship. The aircraft crashed into Normandie's bow. The pilot survived, but the wreckage of the aircraft remained aboard the Normandie until she arrived in France. A salvage team from the Royal Air Force later removed the wreckage. Horsey was court-martialed and found guilty on 2 charges, and the car was totaled in the incident. SS Normandie continued her route from Europe to North America without incident, until on October 28, 1939, she arrived in New York for the last time. Nazi Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1st would see the Normandie make her new home at Pier 88, along with the Queen Mary and eventually the Queen Elizabeth. These 3 behemoths were the largest ships in the world. Rather quickly, she became a ghost ship. A majority of her crew returned to France, and a small, skeleton crew remained to maintain the ship. This was until Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 12th, 1941. This was when the US officially took possession of the Normandie. Due to her size, it was decided to convert her into a troop transport at Pier 88. Her exteriors were repainted to wartime camouflage, and she was renamed USS Lafayette, and her stylish interiors began a transformation into mess halls, troop berths, and military facilities. Her new captain was to be Captain Roger Coleman, who was assigned to the ship on January 21st, 1942. He oversaw a skeleton crew of 458 engineers as they got to work trying to run this advanced and complex vessel. The Americans would maintain the steam in the boilers and tend to duties needed aboard the ship, like taking care of the machinery and other equipment. But one system that they would abandon maintaining was the fire watch system. This system was designed to ensure that any fire on board would be suppressed before it got out of control. The work was estimated to be complete by February, but due to the enormous size of the project, the crew was unable to adhere to their original schedule. So additional crew were added in order to assist, but by February 6th, the conversion was still nowhere near completion. A request was put in to delay the first sailing of Lafayette by 2 weeks. But this delay was denied. Ready or not, the ship would be setting sail on February 14th. This news put the conversion plans into overdrive, and would in the end spell disaster for the Normandie. If you've enjoyed this episode so far, give us a like and subscribe to check out all of our other maritime disasters. At 2 in the afternoon on February 9th, over 3,000 workers were hard at work preparing the ship when a crew, armed with acetylene torches, arrived in the Grand Lounge, tasked with cutting away the massive light columns mounted there. Next to their work area were piles of extremely flammable life jackets. As they worked, a spark from the torch came into contact with these jackets and fire erupted instantly. In what seemed like no time at all, this small fire had become an inferno. With the ship's fire systems disabled, there was nothing to stop the flames from quickly taking over the ship. The workers began to evacuate the ship, and less than an hour later, the Normandie was engulfed in flames. Fire trucks on land and fire boats in the Hudson River arrived and began pouring tons of water into the burning ship. As the firefighters battled to drown the flames, the ship slowly began to develop a list to port. By late afternoon, the Navy officials announced that the fire damage was light. The Normandie had bigger problems though. All of the water used to stop the flames had settled on the ship's port side, giving her an ever-increasing list to port. As the Hudson River's tides changed, the ship would rise and what was left of her stability would disappear, causing her to capsize. Nearby tugs attempted to move the ship into the side of Pier 88 to keep her from tipping over. Just after midnight on February 10th, all remaining crew were ordered off the ship as her capsizing was now just a matter of time. All tugs and fireboats were ordered away from the ship. At 2:37, just over 12 hours after the fire began, the ship dipped and rolled onto her port side, filling the ship with icy water. A sad sight it must have been to see one of the most famous liners in the world now face down in the muddy waters of the Hudson River. The removal of the ship would be a massive undertaking, as it was clear that she couldn't be repaired. Her upper decks and funnels were cut away before she could be upright again, nearly 19 months after the disaster. The ship was then towed away and sold for scrap. Today, the Normandie is still regarded as one of the greatest liners ever built. And the real tragedy is how a single spark, mixed with a disregard for safety, could spell the end of this majestic vessel. Thanks for watching this episode of Never Stop Learning. If you've enjoyed it, give us a like as it really helps new people find these videos. Also, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and check out some of our other maritime disaster videos. Until next time.